Hello everybody and welcome back to Super Wars Z2 Hakai Hen. Now, there's a bit of an issue with this episode as I left my mic unmuted while recording it, so you're gonna hear probably breathing and button clickings throughout for half the video. Since to make sure this mistake never happens again, I've disabled the recording of my mic and my recording software. I had it on in case I wanted to say something in the middle of an episode, in case something amazing happened. But I decided that that's not worth happening. It's not worth having this issue happen again. So I disabled my microphone, and yeah. So I upgraded to Windows 10, guys, and I fixed all the issues that I've been having with Windows 10. Since I upgraded with Windows 10, I haven't tried to upgrade. I haven't tried recording. And earlier today, I started recording some games I got from the Humble Bundle. Not for any real particular reason. When I say recording, those recordings you guys won't see for a while, because I'm recording it footage in advance and then going over it later. And once I get Fate Extra, Super Wars Z2 done, that footage won't go up for a long time. Oh yeah, I won't be doing the original Super Wars Z. I know I'm going off topic, but I won't be doing that because it's too. I can't record it. I tried using an emulator to record it, but the thing is that for some reason it doesn't want to record when it's DirectX 9 or whatever. It won't record when it's DirectX 9 when I'm using that plugin. But when I go to DirectX 11, it will record. But the problem there is that there's graphical issues. When in DirectX 9, there isn't any graphical issues. It's weird, even though they have the exact same settings. Maybe in Windows, I think I need to change some settings in the recording software to get it to work. I'll mess around with it a little bit more, but it won't come out as soon as Z2 or Hakai Hen is over. It'll be a while before I get any recordings of it. And I'm confused because I recorded it before. I have that old footage on my channel. Well, I need to go look at that and see if the portraits are alright. Because if they are alright, then something happened to the recording software that made it incompatible with the emulator. And I'll have to probably change some settings around. So I'll mess around with that. But yeah, anyway, back to the recording, and I was having trouble with my recording software, as whenever I recorded, it made a file that was 0 kilobytes and did nothing. So I reinstalled the software and it worked just fine. So if you're having trouble with any of your software after upgrading Windows 10, like it works, like it starts up and everything's fine, but some functions don't work, I would recommend reinstalling the software, because probably something went wrong during the moving process from Windows whatever to Windows 10. I mean, I would say stuff about the current stage right now, but oh yeah, the SR point. The SR point doesn't show up until after you defeat all these initial enemies here, so you can take as long as you want defeating them. I'm pretty sure that is the case. There's a trick with the plane from Trider, the Ptolemy, and Dygard. Because what you have it, you have the plane from Trider support, defend somebody. Because what the Ptolemy can repair, Dygard can resupply, and the plane can support, defend, and they all gain experience from doing that, and you can grind to level 99 without like risking a DSR point. So if you guys want to do that, go ahead. I will not be doing that because I want to have a guide that is for the average player. So I'm not going to be doing any grinding of that. I did attempt to do some grinding, but I decided I want to get all the SR points because I promised that, so I went back, tried again, and I eventually did do it. That was on the stage 20, I believe. Malice in the Sands, it was the stage. I think that was the last stage, actually. God Mars can take some damage from those planes, but I think I was lucky here because he dodges several times here. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. I actually didn't really know this. I probably did know it, but I never used the feature. You can press the L or R buttons to quickly switch between the different actions you can do, like attack, defend, or evade. I think I recently found out about it. I probably knew it before, but I think I wasn't really too sure on the... I think I didn't like it for some reason, I don't know, but I used it in this episode. I probably just forgot about the feature. But anyway, like I said, you can take, as long as you want to defeat all these initial enemies. I'm not too worried about getting the 70 kills for Chirico, Alto, and Holland needs 50, but not really too worried about them right now. You want to focus on Holland, Chirico, then Alto, because Alto doesn't need 70 kills until stage 45. Chirico doesn't need his kills until stage 39, while Holland leaves on stage 33, so you probably want to get your 50 kills with Holland on stage 32. So you want to get it on the stage before. If not, you want to get real damn close. If you're not going for the SR points, then what I recommend doing is probably just grinding on a stage. So what I mean by that is just send that unit out on its own, have it kill as many units as it can. If it gets shot down, then send a battleship, a weak battleship out, and just have it take just tank damage until it gets destroyed, get a game over, and you can do the stage again. That's what I recommend doing if you're not going for the SR points. In a lot of in UX, like I already explained UX, I won't explain it again. But yeah, the beginning of the stage really isn't anything interesting because it has nothing to do with the SR point. I guess I'll explain now in case something happens to me and I'm unable to explain while Zool comes up. To get the SR point in this stage, you need to defeat the Zool when he appears. He's God Mars' enemy, I guess you could say. He runs away when his HP goes below 2,000, and he runs away on the third turn after he appears. So you have to defeat him within 2 turns of his appearance. You really need a super robot like Mazinger Z or get a Robo with support attack and a lot of, maybe Gurren Lagann with a lot of, the reason I got it was because of Frost and his high, attack upgrades. He was a support attack. God Mars, when he transforms that God Mars over there, his final attack does 5,500 damage, and I think he only has 1 damage upgrade on him, or 2. So you're probably going to use God Mars for the initial attack, maybe the support attack. Against Zool, he does around 5,000 something damage, God Mars. So you need somebody that can do at least 5,500 damage, or around that frame. Around that damage range, I should say. So, I mean, if you've done exactly the same thing as I've been doing, you should be fine for the most part in terms of upgrades. So you really shouldn't have anything really to worry about if you've been following what I've been doing. So, yeah, that's it. I don't really have much else to say, I think. I mean, the good thing about Windows 10 is that in the media player, which actually is kind of less amazing than before, because it isn't anything special. It just has white. It's just white. like everything's just white. Doesn't have any cool designs on it or anything. Simple options, and I kind of like this. It's gonna take me a little while to get used to, because if you know, a lot of the Windows versions, when you open up the program, like the edges had sort of a little border to them. They've gotten rid of the border essentially. I mean, there's still a border there, but just like a blue line to show that it's a different window from whatever else you're doing. So that border is kind of gone now. I mean, the only border that there is on the top, which so it's kind of interesting. And now it actually tells you how much time there is left in the video, which I like this feature. It's telling me right now that there's 31 minutes left and the timer's going down there, and I like that. That's a good feature. It's good for me. I mean, I know not a lot of people won't even notice that feature or find it that useful, but I find it very useful. Because before, I had to ballpark how much time I had left if I didn't remember the time of the video. Now, like around like 10 or 20, even 20 minutes of the footage, it's just fighting Zool, because I just show off everybody's attack animations while fighting them. I like to do that when I fight bosses. Soon, when we get deeper into the game, I'm gonna have to skip a lot of the attack animations and just show the animations when we fight a boss or something like that, or a new enemy. Because to be honest, I would like to show the animations of everybody and every time they attack, but that's a little bit tedious, and I'm sure it gets boring to watch after a while. So, let's see. Oh yes, I guess I should talk about somewhat of my quest to learn the Japanese. It's gotten a little bit better. I mean, I know a little bit more about some particles and what they mean. I know that, what is it, ha is a particle defining a topic or is used for emphasis, something along those lines. Because what I've been doing, well, what I started doing is I grabbed my copy of Let It Go, the first one, and I started translating a bit of it, because what I found useful is that a lot of games targeted towards children above the kanji have their pronunciation written out in hiragana. This is great because you can look up the kanji based on their hiragana, based on their pronunciation. So if there's a kanji I don't know, those games targeted towards children has the kanji, has the hiragana, has the pronunciation of those kanji, so I can just look up the kanji that way instead of looking up based on how it looks like and how many vertical lines it has, horizontal lines it has. And I translate like the first sentence that ever appears. Like after I pick a new game, I translated like the first sentence that appeared. And let's see, I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation because I don't speak Japanese natively. What is it? Kono sakuhin fikujan desu. That's the first thing I translated. Kono essentially means this. Sakuhin can mean a variety of things, but I translated it as work because that most applied to the game. It's just the part, just the topic, just defining the topic. Fikujan took me a little bit to get going because that actually is just is just how you say fiction in Japanese, not like the word fiction in Japanese. Just how you would say the English word fiction in Japanese. That's essentially what it is. And desu means is, essentially. So this work is fiction. Like the order is a bit off, so you can't translate directly or you get this work fiction is. You like in most languages when you translate, you gotta accommodate the grammar structure of the language you're translating to. So this work is fiction, and that made sense as a sentence. And when I used Jisho, I believe it's called, the an online dictionary for looking at kanji and all everything. You can put a sentence in there. It breaks the kanji into words, nouns, whatever. Tells you if this hiragana is a particle. Tells you what it is. Tells you whether it's its own word. I like it. Much better than Google Translate. You do have, it doesn't like give you a direct translation unless there is a direct translation for it. But I like it. And I feel like this way is learning Japanese works for me. It might work for you if you're having trouble learning Japanese. So, but you'd have to find a Japanese game. But I'm sure there are Japanese games out there. Maybe not the Game Boy Advance, but on like a Nintendo DS or something like that, that you can download in Japanese and have the kanji, have the hiragana appear above the kanji maybe. If not, maybe the PSP probably too. I noticed that the new Dragon Quest 11, I think it was, the 3DS version anyway, had the hiragana above the kanji. So I think that one is targeted a bit more towards children. Maybe not necessarily, but it has that option for children too, so that they can, understand the kanji, because children won't know all the kanji, which is why they have that on there. A lot of Yu-Gi-Oh games on the PSP actually have that as well. I mean, the hiragana is a bit blurred out because it's insanely small. It's a bit blurry, but you should be able to find out eventually what it means. There's only so many hiragana characters out there. There's only like 26, something like that. They have little variations, but usually the pronunciation doesn't use the Dakuan or something like that. So I just translate around like a sentence or word each day now, and that's helped me keep some what you can call it, retain information more often than that let me retain some of the information I learned. I should say, I don't know how I should say this. I retain more of the information when I translated it on my own, because I think that's because I'm spending more time thinking about each kanji and each hiragana, katakana, so I'm memorizing things a little bit more. Although I keep notes of what I translated before, so I can look back and remember what I did learn, what I did translate, so I could remember it. Does this not have? Is it in Windows? No, that's not Windows. Suppose this matter. Oh, oops, I forgot to have the thing for one of these. This kind of translated, but oh well, doesn't matter. Because let's see. I actually did. I'm kind of. Let me restart. Translating names is easy in Japanese, pretty much. There are some names which don't really make much sense because they just don't. But translating names and options are pretty easy because usually they don't have anything advanced in them. I mean, if you find the odd kanji that you don't know, then you gotta spend some time looking it up. But I did translate like some of the options for Fire Emblem X Shin Megami Tensei. I believe it has a new name now, but I'll call it that. The dialogue options that appear under there. MW. I forget how do you pronounce that, but MW. The R button is MW off, which turns off dialogue options. The Y button is auto, and the X button was already translated to. I forget what it was already translated to, but I did translate that on the Game Explain video. Originally I didn't know what MW stood for, so I had no idea what it could mean, but then I realized it can mean message window. So it's on Game Explain's Fire Emblem trailer analysis part 2 or whatever. So if you saw that was from me. I do sometimes comment on other videos. Let's translate names right. Alright, that's what I'm saying. So if you want to learn, maybe try to memorize some katakana, go look some Japanese names and try to translate them from, or translate some of the names that appear here, even on the video. And from you know, from the Japanese to English. Try doing that. Just pause the video somewhere and try to memorize it. Of course, there's some kanji that, because of the font, are just almost impossible to read. Heck, if you're playing the game trying to translate like a random sentence or something like that, you may know what they mean, but just try translating it. I mean, that's what I'm doing. Like, I'm in no hurry to learn Japanese. If I was, I'd be translating all the time, trying to learn everything that I could. So I'm doing like a little bit each day. So it's fresh in my mind. And in case I really want to study it seriously or have the time to, then I'll go ahead and study it seriously. But as of right now, I have no need to study it seriously. I mean, I would love to know Japanese. Because I would like to know the story of these games. I just love the gameplay from these games, which is why I play these games a lot. People who play Super Overlord games just as much as I do and don't know Japanese know what I'm talking about. I just love the animations, gameplay. I love its pick up and play nature. I like that you can play the game for a minute and feel like you've done something. There's not a lot of games where you can play a game for a minute, feel like you've done something, and then put it down. Of course, you can also feel like you've gone backwards in the game after you played a minute, if you made a pretty bad decision, but I mean, the game doesn't do that. I just love the pick up and play nature of this series, which is why I prefer on portable systems rather than on consoles, which is why I like that Z3 had a Vita version. I have a Vita, so I bought the Vita versions of the Z3 games. They were expensive, and I like how after I bought them, their price went down. The thing is just that people wanted to make back their money, and so after I bought that, they had extra copies that they no longer needed to. They no longer needed to make that much of a profit on, so they sold it for less. After I bought it happened for Tengoku Hen and Jikoku Hen. Almost the second after I bought it. Not literally a second, but you guys should know what I mean. The price went down. Tengoku Hen was like $40 and $50 now. Like when I bought it, was like $70. So I'm like, oh, god damn it. UX was still expensive. It was still expensive after I checked. It might have gone down in price now though. Yeah. I bought a lot of my Super Bowl games from Amazon because there are a lot of sellers that actually have the game in the US and just sell it. And I usually get them pretty fast that way. It went up in price. Jesus. Well, the thing is that these are now being sold directly from Japan. When I buy a Super Overlord's game, I make sure that it says that you can use Amazon Prime with it, because that means Amazon has it, and the second you buy it, it's almost guaranteed to ship immediately. Not immediately, but it's guaranteed to ship that day or the next day. If it has the Amazon Prime symbol on it, and you buy it from a seller that's with Amazon Prime. Yeah, Z3 is $50, and yeah, it's around $50. It's around. You can get both games for around $100 now. Those Z3 games, so that's something. The Vita version of the first Z3 game is inferior to the PS3 version because the character portraits and battles for some reason are very low in quality compared to the PS3 version. They fixed that in Z3.2 or Tengoku Hen, and everything's just fine. It's exactly like the PS3 version, but I think in some of the more complex animations there are slight slowdowns. but those are very few and far between, and I've only seen slowdown in enemy animations, in one enemy animation. It was the only time I ever saw a slowdown, and it wasn't that noticeable. And here I'm humming, you hear that? And then I noticed that, and then I paused my mic, because the second I started humming or something like that, I looked at my mic, and I saw that it was a muted him, and I just slapped my table, I face palmed, and I didn't want to record that whole half an hour. So I just left it. It wasn't that annoying, so that's why I left it in. I think right now Tengoku Hen is my favorite Super Wars game because of I like its mix of challenge. I felt that it had the right amount of challenge, and I felt it had a lot of things right about it. I'm not a reviewer, so I can't exactly say all of its benefits and negatives. I liked it. The animations were fluid. I mean, the difference between like Z2 and Tengoku Hen is that Tengoku Hen focused a lot more on the fluidity of the animations rather than having an impact, which is what Z2 I felt focused on a lot more, is leaving an impact to make up for the lack of fluidity. And there's the fact that it reused a lot of animations from the original Z, from the reappearing characters. Whereas in Z3 they had to remake a lot of the sprites for some of the returning characters. Their login's pretty much the same though, just an upscaled version. I think it's quite obvious they redid the sprite, just that they didn't change the style of it at all. Supposedly, Z3 was supposed to have a lot more on it, but just that they didn't have the budget was lowered considering one of the original generation games sold pretty badly. I don't think it's actually called, yeah, I think it actually has OG in it, but it sold like pretty badly. Yeah, there's all three games with the OG games with Masaki, I believe. Not like the original generation, the second Super Wars original generation, but that one was good, one with amazing animations. But the one with the real sizes, I couldn't play those games. They were just, I didn't like them. It's hard to explain, but like all the robots they weren't super deformed. They were the actual sizes. But it wasn't like this. It was like you saw it from the unit, from like over the shoulder, something like that. Like you saw, it was like an over shoulder perspective, and it wasn't like this kind of perspective. And it was weird. I tried playing the game, but I couldn't get into it. So I could see why the newer one that released on the PS3 just failed. Because I could not get into that. Although if you actually look at the original generation, the second Super Wars original generation, the good one, I should say, the good original generation game on the PS3, it actually has a lot of space for text. Like the Japanese, like here you can see that like in this game, you can see the Japanese text takes quite a bit of space. It doesn't take all the space, but it fills it up rather nicely. In the original generation 2 on the PS3, the text barely filled the text boxes or the space that it was assigned to. So they left a lot of space in case they decided to localize it. That's what I feel like was going to happen, but they didn't. They decided not to because the person would be left in the dark because it's just a random game in the middle of a franchise. They probably would have translated it if the original generation games that sold better, the ones that were translated. because there are some Super Robot Wars games, or Super Robot Tyson games, I should say, that were released in the US and Europe, maybe? They were the original generation games which required no licensing. The first and second one were translated on the Game Boy Advance, and there was one on DS, which was a spin-off. Had nothing to do with robots, but I don't believe that actually sold that well. So, like, they had room, like, I think they had plans to do it, but they just abandoned it. I think if they ever came up with another original generation game that wasn't part of us, that was again in its own like universe, like it restarted, like how I don't know how to explain this, like how a lot of the Super Robot Wars games are in their own like universe. They aren't connected to each other a lot of the times unless they have the same letter in their name. So if they did that and it was new, like everybody's story was starting right from the beginning, then I think at that point they might give it a chance to release over here, because all they would have to do would be to translate it pretty much and try it out over here. I would like that, especially if they had the animations on that one on the PS2, which were amazing animations. I think it would sell pretty well over here, because there is an audience here for Super Robot Tyson games. There are people that know about it, and there are people that will buy it just based on the animations, because they like super robots. Or they just like robots, mech suits, whatever you want to call it. But I don't see it happening anytime in the future, to be honest. If it does happen in the future, I'd buy it in an instant. That's just how much I like the series. Because I'd want to show my support. Like when Inazuma 11 came out in the eShop in the US, I bought it instantly because I wanted to show my support for that series. I wanted to come out in the US, but it isn't coming out. I thought it sold well, the Inazuma 11 on the eShop, but I guess it didn't sell well enough to meet Level 5's expectations to sell more versions of the game. I think the major thing is the release timing, and that's why they decided not to go any further because Inazuma 11 left off on a note where it didn't really have room for a sequel. I don't think they expected it to succeed so much, and when it did, because it left on a nice note. So if the Inazuma 11 was the last game, there wasn't a last game of the series, the first game, it didn't leave off on a cliffhanger. I think the problem was the timing. Because how would they release the games? Because the other region, they had a year or two or whatever in between game releases because there was enough time. But now in the US, they can't really do a yearly release. They might still do that. They might release another game. But I think at this point, there's no point. They could release Inazuma 11 too, but they might not even, because the NX is coming out soon. Inazuma 11-3 might never come out. I could see it 2 maybe coming out in the US. 3 I don't see the high possibility of coming out. Because a lot of people are wondering why they didn't just translate the entire collection and just release it like the entire, because what they did to release Inazuma 11 in the US is that they just ripped it from the Inazuma 11 collection that came out on the 3DS, which was the first 3 games on the 3DS. I don't see that happening because it would just waste too much money translating 3 entire games for a market they're not even sure if they'll make money on. I know I said it a little bit wrong, well, you guys know what I mean. Sure, there's an audience in there, but they need to make a profit. I think they didn't make a good profit off 2011. One, but it might not have been enough to show that there was a reasonable market to continually a reasonable audience, I should say, to market the game stores. I think that was it. And Atlas was were the people that translated some of the original generation games to the US. And I guess they did. It said there wasn't enough audience to bother translating any of the other original generation games. I think they would have been better off translating the PS2 versions of those games rather than the Game Boy Advance version of those games. Because I think at that point, the PS2 game was already out. They could have just separated it like they did. Because the PS2 version of the game, of the original generation games, came with both. Came with original generation 1 and original generation 2. They should have just separated those games and released them separately. I felt like that would have sold more copies because the animations were much better than the Game Boy Advance games, which had subpar animations. Because they were released like near the end of the Game Boy Advance's life cycle in the US. If they were released earlier, it would have been fine, but then you're seeing how I finished off Zool there, but I'm pretty sure I don't have to say anything because you guys can see what's happening there. Alright, let's see. Let's look. The first original generation came out in 2002. Original Generation 2 came out in 2005. We got both Original Generation 1 and 2 in 2006 on the same year. They were released 3 months apart. You don't do that. You don't release a game 3 months apart. A fanatic of the series at the time, however, I don't think there were that many. I'm sure there were people there that enjoyed the game, but I don't think there was that. Because I don't think the series really exploded in popularity in the West until like recently. And even then, it barely. I don't even think it exploded that much. Sure, there's an audience for it, but I don't think it's enough. But you can't just release games within 3 years of each other. I'm looking here, and the PS2 version of the games I don't think were released until 2007. They probably should have just released those 2 games, but they didn't know. But it was near the end of the Game Boy Advance's life cycle, so I assume they just translated the license those 2 games. Because they knew the Game Boy Advance was going out, so they wanted to get those games out as soon as possible. I think they would have liked to have waited a year between those two games, but I think it was because the Game Boy Advance was going to become a legacy system. They just released those 2 games within like 3 months of each other, just because they had no choice. Now that I think about it. I slowed down the text here just because an event was happening. After the event ended, I just decided to skip the text. Because look how long this exchange lasts. It's a lot of text. But yeah, but because the Game Boy Advance was becoming, you know, a legacy system, I think they had no choice but to release those 2 games, just so they can make as much money as they could on it. But because of that, they didn't sell. There was 2 different games. They just didn't sell enough copies. They didn't have enough time to sell enough copies to turn up a profit. I think that was the case that happened. And they tried again with that one Super Tyson OG Saga Endless Frontier on the DS, but I don't think that sold well at all. And that wasn't even a Super Robot Tyson game. That was just a spin-off, which had like real people in it, like humans. I think it was a decent game. I think it was a good game. I never really played it, but it wasn't this kind of game. So I call it a spin-off. So I don't think that sold well enough either. And so they don't really want to try their hands on it anymore. Maybe Xseed will, but I doubt any publisher now will try to translate a Super Robot Tyson game just because. Just I don't know. I would like it to come overseas, like any. Maybe not the spin-offs, but I would like any of the games to come over here at this point. But unfortunately, that's just a dream. But people can dream, right? Right, guys? Well, anyway, I'll see you guys again next time, whenever that is. Bye.